The light of consistency. Once upon a time, there was a young man working in a large factory. From his first days on the job, he was mentored by an experienced and dedicated old technician. This mentor not only passed on technical skills, but also shared a profound philosophy: talk less, do more, and never stop developing your skills in every aspect of the job. The young man took those words to heart. For 10 years, he was always the first to arrive and the last to leave, diligently working without complaint or a desire for praise. He learned everything he could: machine operation, maintenance, troubleshooting. When the old mentor retired, the young man took his place as the new technician. However, as time passed, the young man began to feel disheartened. His less experienced and less diligent colleagues were getting promoted, one by one, while he remained in the same position with the same modest salary as when he was just starting out. One day he decided to visit his former mentor, someone he deeply respected. Upon seeing his weary and disappointed face, the mentor asked what was wrong. The young man poured out his heart. "I've done everything you taught me, so why have I been left behind?" The old man stayed silent for a while, then asked, "Are you sure you've become indispensable at the factory?" The young man nodded, and the story took an unexpected turn. Hearing his student confirm his value at the factory, the old mentor began pacing thoughtfully. After a few moments, he turned to the young man and said, "Then take a day off. Any reason you choose. It's time to give yourself a break." The young man was surprised by this suggestion, but the more he thought about it, the more it made sense. He quickly went home and filed for a one-day leave. When he returned to work, the manager called him in. During his absence, the factory had faced multiple issues. Technical problems no one else could solve. People were confused and operations had stalled. Realizing the importance of the young man, management promoted him to senior technician, acknowledging his contribution and encouraging him to continue his efforts. The young man was thrilled. At last, his quiet, hard work had been recognized. He silently thanked his mentor for the simple yet powerful secret to being noticed. From then on, whenever he felt underappreciated, he would take a day off. Without fail, his return would be met with renewed respect and appreciation. His career kept advancing, but he didn't realize that this very tactic would quietly lead him into an unexpected downfall. Flush with success, the young man believed he had unlocked the secret to recognition. Just take a day off, and people would notice his absence and appreciate his worth. So he began using this strategy repeatedly. Every time he felt undervalued or unfairly treated, he'd take leave. And each time, his colleagues' dependence grew, his respect increased, and management offered more perks, more authority, and more praise. But one day, as he arrived at the factory like any other morning, the gate wouldn't open. Confused, he asked the security guard, only to learn, shocked and speechless, that he had been let go. No prior notice, no explanation, just a short message. No longer a fit. Stunned and hurt, he went back to see his old mentor. He asked with a heavy heart, "Why did I lose my job?" "I followed your advice exactly." The old man gently shook his head. "No, you only heard half the lesson. You correctly understood. A light bulb that's always on is often ignored, but when it goes out, people notice its absence. But you missed the other half." The young man was stunned. "The other half?" The mentor replied slowly. "If a light bulb keeps going out, eventually it will be replaced with one that's more reliable. No one wants to depend on something that's frequently absent, no matter how useful it once was." He looked deeply into his student's eyes and said, "Don't let yourself be taken for granted, but also don't become unreliable. Find the balance between showing your value and being consistently dependable. And remember, the people always by your side, family, friends, are also like light bulbs that never go out. Be grateful for them before it's too late." The young man listened intently, overcome with emotion. He realized that all these years he had been chasing recognition from others while forgetting a more important truth: responsibility and gratitude. The old mentor continued, "Don't let yourself be diminished, but also don't give up just because things aren't going your way. Life is about balance. If you only demand without contributing, or seek credit without staying reliable, you'll ultimately lose your place." He looked at his student with understanding. Don't wait until you lose someone to realize their worth. And don't force others to lose you before they recognize yours. Live responsibly, stay grateful, and be someone they never want to replace. That day, the young man left with a deeper lesson than any technical skill he had ever learned. He was no longer the quiet worker simply doing his job. He had grown, not just in skill, but in understanding his value and his place in the world. What seemed like a career lesson turned out to be a life message. Consistent presence is the most powerful light, and gratitude for others and for yourself is what helps you stay resilient in a world that constantly changes. He walked away from the mentor's home with lighter steps, but a heavier heart. No longer the naive apprentice, he now understood that a person's value lies not only in their abilities, but in their reliable presence, steadfast, dependable, and well-timed. On that journey, he also realized something deeper. The people who are always there, family, friends, colleagues, are like ever-glowing bulbs in our lives. Because they're constantly present, we often forget their value. Only when they're gone do we feel the emptiness and regret. And about himself, he learned, if you work quietly forever, people may think you don't need recognition. But if you disappear too often, people will learn to replace you. So the key is to balance between contribution and self-care, between individual worth and team responsibility, between being seen and being trusted. Life doesn't require you to shine all the time, but it does require you to be stable, present, and grateful, so that people will always want you around. Because in the end, enduring light is always more valued than the brightest flash. Having learned this costly lesson, the young man no longer blamed others nor himself. He realized that sometimes we fail not because we haven't done enough, but because we haven't understood deeply enough. He once believed hard work was enough to be noticed. Then he thought that taking strategic absences would win him respect. But finally he understood. Trust and consistency are what make people want to keep you. Like a light bulb. If it always shines, people forget it. If it flickers too often, they replace it. But if it lasts long, stays stable, and lights up when needed, that's the light worth keeping. This story isn't just for working professionals. It's for everyone, no matter the role we play in life. You're a parent, your kids may be taking your sacrifices for granted. You're a partner. You may feel overlooked because you're always available. You're an employee, a leader, or a friend. You may think your quiet efforts go unnoticed. But remember, don't stay silent forever, and don't disappear too much either. Find ways to make yourself valued without losing others' trust. The final lesson isn't just to be seen, but to be irreplaceable. Be the kind of light that doesn't just shine briefly, but glows with warmth and endurance, making others want to walk beside you.